What's his age?
We're both 29.
You're both 29. Okay.
Mm,
So you're both 29. You have three children. And congratulations on having a family. That's a beautiful thing.
thank
So
you.
you're 29. And if you were to get out of the relationship, is your idea that you don't plan on getting back into a relationship for the rest of your life, or you would hope to get back in
No,
the game?
I'll move on.
So your plan would be to get with another man, marry him, buy a house, and then live happily ever after?
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, I don't know if happy ever after exists, but
take a shot at it.
I'll I'll be content with someone else.
Okay. And would you want this other man to have no kids or to have kids, or what are the requirements on this other guy?
He can have kids or no kids.
Mhm. You ever saw that show The Brady Bunch?
Hmm.
Okay, so if he has like say four kids, you got three kids, and for some strange reason he has custody of his kids, they live with him. You just move your kids all in together in the same house.
No, not right away.
Not
Not
not right away. No, I'm just saying like
Yeah.
eventually that's the plan.
Eventually, if like we're going steady and things are going good, then yeah.
Okay,
But
fair
I
enough.
still keep my own house because
Wait,
sometimes kids don't get along and things get awkward.
wait, what? What do you
Like
mean keep your own
I'll still
house?
keep my own house. Just like
So you're saying you would potentially marry another guy who has kids, and then you guys would live in two separate houses?
oh no, if we get I thought you were saying like if we get like just in a steady relationship and
No,
we
we're
decide
just
to
trying
go
we're
into
trying to look
something.
down to the end that you're seeking.
Oh then yeah, yeah. I'll move in and sell my other house.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to see what see if you had realistic alternatives, because if you said to me, Marquette, I want to get out of this relationship. I want to find another guy who has no children, and I want to get married and move in together and eventually live happily ever after. Then I say, okay, well, that's unlikely,
Mm,
because the guy that you meet, we should assume that at the least, or excuse me, at the most, he'll be your match, right? He'll have a
right.
similar background, which is been in a long-term relationship, he's divorced, probably has kids, he's similar in age or maybe a little bit older. It's not going to be a guy who's your age, has no kids, has a high income, and has every opportunity in the world, right? It's going to be someone like more similar in background, right? And it seems
Mm.
as though that's a prospect that you're willing to deal with. Someone who has kids, who's similar in age, maybe a little bit older, will be the oldest guy you'd consider being with.
Right now with me being 29, probably like 34.
Okay, I think you're probably gonna have to get a little bit more realistic
Mm-mm.
on that
34
one.
is 34 is not that bad. Five
Yeah,
years.
34 is
35
quite
is at the
young.
most.
You said what?
Yeah. I said 35, but
Well, see, I think you're gonna have to get out of that girl math, because in man math, if a man is 29 and a woman is 29, like you realize those are not the same ages.
why they're not?
Right, exactly. So, for example, if a woman my age, I consider her like almost dying. I consider her like almost dead.
Okay.
Right? For a
Mm-hmm.
variety of reasons. One, for the fact of her actual biology and the appearance that it comes with, my age in a woman. I'm like, whoa, you're
Mm-hmm.
almost dead. Like, whoa, was that a wrinkle on your face? Whoa, stop it. That's
Right.
number one. Then number two, at my age, they should have already had kids. And if they didn't, I feel like it's a bit late. Like at 29, for example, you probably should start winding down on having kids. And you certainly shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be having your first kid at 29. So for a man, they're looking to younger women. So, and I have another video that talks about Leonardo DiCaprio, for example. He only dates women under age 25. And I don't know what age bro is, but he nowhere near 25. Similarly, I'm not 25, and I only take women who are 25 and younger seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if that's the case and you're only willing to go up to 34, number one, that's a bit of immaturity. And I often speak of clinical immaturity. And number two, you're probably focused on the wrong things. Like maybe you want your guy to be young and athletic and all this other stuff, but your greater priorities that you described to me didn't have anything to do with that. In fact, maybe a guy who's a little bit older would be less likely to be going out, less likely to be ultra friendly, less likely to even be on social media. But it seems like you might be scared of that guy. And as I had said earlier with the mate selection, women who end up in your position to where you got to sit the guy down, you got to coach him, you got to like mother him and tell him to be good and behave himself. And then he's going out doing things that are irresponsible, whether it's drinking like a young white college fraternity gentleman or getting into car accidents like Paris Hilton, and doing like this kind of goofy behavior. That's a mate selection issue. That's you picking a guy who has irresponsible, erratic behavior. Not saying he's a bad person, just some people are like that, you know?
You're right.
Like there's a young lady on the podcast a couple of days ago, and I was like, "Are you Slizzard?" She was like, "No." I was like, "You have a personality that's like the way people become when there's lizard, like that's your regular personality, which is just say some people are just a little bit unhinged. And it just is what it is. And the question is like that particular form of crazy, can you deal with it? But anyways, my recommendation to you and all women is you need to at the minimum be looking 10 years up. At the minimum. Like that's a minimum. So if you're
Yeah.
20, you absolutely should be willing to date a guy who's 30 if you're serious, meaning if you're serious about family and marriage. If you're just looking to get piped down, well, then what does the age matter?
Right.
So you're, oh, and by the way, 29.
Mm-hmm. 29 is old.
Listen, at a 29-year-old woman and a 34-year-old man, I consider the man to be younger.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. Generally, do women date guys who are younger?
Nowadays, yeah. But
Because they're
now,
suffering
not,
from clinical immaturity. But let's say historically,
no.
or let's just say in general, even today, in general, do women date down in age?
No, not generally, no.
No, they don't. And when you talk to younger women, women who are in their prime, they say they like older guys. You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
The only time women start saying that they can date a younger guy is when
Yeah,
they're
yes.
running out of options. When women start running out of options, that's when they start dating younger guys. Or when women want to dominate, that's when they start dating younger guys. But if you find a woman in her prime, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, they all want to date an older guy.
I didn't.
Right. And
I
that's why I
never.
said you had
Oh,
mate
okay.
selection issues.
Yeah, I
Mate
always
selection.
dated around my age.
And you ever date a younger guy?
No,
You just said you would, though.
no, I wouldn't date a younger guy. No, I
Am I
wouldn't.
tripping? Did you just say that
I,
a little while
no,
ago?
I thought you asked me, did women usually date younger men? And I said, yeah, in this type of generation nowadays, women are
They,
dating
but
young.
that's still not true. They don't usually date younger guys. They might be willing to, they might be open to it, but they don't usually do that.
I wouldn't.
Okay. So just to be clear, at age 29, the truth is, and I'm going to just say 30 if you don't mind, because that's basically what it is. And
Right.
you're closer to 30 than you are to 29 because age moves in one direction, which is up.
Right.
Right. So you're never close to where you came from because you're only going in one direction, which is up. So I'll say 30. So at age 30, I think realistically, you should be willing to date up to a guy who's 44 years old. And that's actually a decade older than what you were thinking, especially if you're looking for the things that you identified: stability, not going out, not on social media, um, able to buy a house, willing to move in and have family life. And you have to also remember something. One of the things I really like about your relationship is that you got a lot of time invested. And truthfully, if I described an ideal scenario for a young person, like I taught them when they were a child, like, hey, this is how life, the trajectory should go. You talk about 6 years. I like that because there's a young lady that I really respect. I didn't even have my first argument with her till we were 4 years in. It took 4
Yeah.
years to
That's
have
what it
one
seems like
argument.
with us.
It
Almost
took
like two and
four,
a half years.
right?
Yeah.
And when you have an argument with someone, you start to figure out things about them that you didn't know previously. Right? Because we can
Mm,
all be cool when things are positive and we're going on vacations and we like each other or we love each other. But one thing I figured out when we had the argument is like, like she turned up like really high and I didn't turn up at all. But here's the thing: if you're 5'2" and you weigh a buck 15, like there's a level that you should, you should only turn up to a level. And so I
Right.
was like, whoa, like this is a whole new person. Like now that you're angry. And I was still largely the same. And so figuring out how people handle conflict is critical. So took 4 years just to have an argument. That means you probably shouldn't have been in the marriage at year four because you didn't know who the person is. Then once you have a kid with someone, then there's another level of getting to know the person as a parent. And so between that first kid, you might have a little gap between the first and the second one. So you have time to
Hmm.
get that adjustment. And so I really like what you guys have done in terms of time. But what I'm telling you now is now that you're essentially 30 years old, for the next guy, you don't have time like that. You don't have another 6 years to get to know the guy before you get married and move in. Like the next guy, we're on fast forward. You realize that?
Yeah, I definitely realized I have six brothers.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And
they
you're
told me
one
that.
of how many kids?
My mother have eight. My dad has 12.
12. Okay. So mom had eight, dad has 12. Are eight of them same mother, same father?
Hmm.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Shout out to moms. But anyways, do you plan on having any more kids?
No,
You don't want any more.
no,
Okay. So now we'd have to take another subsection of guys, right? Because the next guy that you're with, he can't be a guy who wants kids,
no.
right? So now
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
sliced down the number of guys you can have even smaller. So it's a guy who's single, heterosexual, which is not assumed nowadays. So he's single, he's heterosexual, he's age 30 or above because you don't date younger guys, and he cannot want to have any more kids. He probably is going to have kids himself. So once you start taking all of those factors into play, oh yeah, and he doesn't like to go out, he's not on social media, and he's available and has enough financial stability to eventually marry and move into a home because that seems to be core to what you want on your trajectory. So you're really creating a very narrow possibility, but it still can happen.
Mm,
Now might take a little bit of time to find. And I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just saying be realistic about it's cold outside. That's what I always try to tell people, like, listen, it's cold outside. You in here, you're in a home with a man. He might have his issues, but it's cold outside. And what you need to be real about is the next man is also going to be a man. So don't forget about that part, which is to say he's not going to be a Disney character. He's not going to be a superhero. He's going to have flaws. He might also like additional women or flirting or what have you. And so being realistic about what you can get, because also know this, the guy that you end up with is not going to be the ideal guy because the
mm,
ideal guy is already married with kids and the woman held on to him because he's the ideal guy. So at some
right.
level, you're not getting the A team. It's impossible. The A team is already taken. They're already in the game. You're pulling somebody off of the bench. It's a second string guy. So what you need to be asking yourself right now is the second string guy I'm likely to get, is he better than the guy I currently have? Is the guy I currently have third string? And he might be. And you don't have to say that publicly right now, but like in your head, you need to ask yourself, well, is the guy I have, is he a third stringer? Because if he is, I know I can get a second stringer. But the first stringers are all in the game playing. Best thing I can do with a first stringer is be a side girl. But I got 3 kids. It's kind of too. I don't need to be a side girl at this point in life.
Right.
What are your thoughts on all this?
Um, I feel like he's a second stringer. He
Okay.
really is because he take care of home. He's like never been late on bills. He
Hmm.
always took care of the kids, even if like we ever separate. I know he'll always be a great father, and I know he'll still take care of me because it has been times where we separated and he still like provided for me, still paid my bills and things like that.